There are 5 fundamental refrigerant design principles that every technician should follow when installing a refrigeration system. Number 1, the system must be clean and dry and free of all contaminants. Number 2, the compressor must be operated within safe temperatures, pressures, and electrical limits. 3, the system must be designed and operated so the proper lubrication is maintained in the compressor at all times. 4, the system must be designed and operated so that excessive liquid does not enter the compressor. And 5, proper refrigerant feed to the evaporator must be maintained. An excessive pressure drop in the refrigerant piping must be avoided. In this video, we're going to primarily be talking about the liquid line and the importance of the size of the liquid line. The liquid line stays the same whether you're in heating mode or cooling mode with a heat pump. Vapor comes out of the compressor as a high pressure vapor and enters the condenser and begins condensing midway through the condenser coil. By the time it reaches the end of the coil, the refrigerant should be a solid column of liquid. This then enters the liquid line and travels to the evaporator and the metering device. Sometimes in some systems they put a liquid receiver in the liquid line to assure that we have a solid column of liquid entering the metering device. When sizing liquid lines, there are some considerations we need to look at. Liquid lines are to be sized as small as possible without exceeding the recommended pressure drop. 3/8 inch is usually recommended. Pressure drop must be minimized to prevent flashing before the metering device. Liquid line diameters in all applications, including long line, must be 3/8 inch. No other liquid lines are permitted. Primary concern in liquid line sizing is to ensure a solid liquid head of refrigerant at the expansion valve. Most major manufacturers have a guide that tells you how to run your refrigerant lines for particular types of units. Consult these guidelines for further information concerning how to run the lines and how to size them. In one major manufacturer's guideline, they state that liquid line diameters in all applications, including long line, must be 3/8 inch in OD. No other liquid line sizes are permitted. So liquid lines cause overcharge, undercharge. They rob the refrigerant from the system if not sized correctly. Refrigerant in the liquid line is doing nothing for the cooling and heating process. It is simply transporting the refrigerant to one of the coils so it can get back to work absorbing or dissipating heat energy. When you increase the liquid line size, it just robs more from places where it could do some good, the coils. If the refrigerant being robbed by the liquid line is replaced, the system is effectively overcharged. Excess refrigerant in the system puts the compressor at risk due to refrigerant migration and flood back to the compressor. So the goal is to make the liquid line large enough to minimize restriction and yet not so large as to put the compressor at risk. With all that being said, from time to time we get calls from dealers who are installing units on older building or historical properties where line sets have been run for years inside the walls of these buildings, and to rerun a line set is virtually impossible. So in cases like this, we have a sheet that we can submit to engineering where you supply us the model number of the equipment that's going into this job. You give us a rundown of the refrigerant tubing, the diameters, the length, the rise, and the drop. And if you can, give us a drawing of the application of how the line set is going to be run. And in these cases, we submit this form to engineering. And in many cases, they come back to us and they approve the drawing and the way that you're going to run the piping and the diameters that you're requesting. So while 3/8 needs to be maintained in most cases, in some hardship cases, engineering has approved larger lines for the liquid line. So keep that in mind if you have a job where you absolutely have to use the existing line set and it's not the proper diameter.
Go to arefco.com for more videos. Like, subscribe, and check back every week for new videos.